What's good, everyone? Today is the 30th of October, 2024, and welcome back to this, the 91st edition of the Superstream. Getting close to 100. We'll see if we'll do anything special for that. Probably not. But for the sake of this video, we have several news stories from the past week, mostly connected to the world of sports that we'll be covering in this video. Shout out to everybody who made it early here in the live chat this afternoon. Superstream 91 today. Of course, 91 is the 13th triangular number. And not only did I go live at 1:30, but today is 10:30, October 30th. To start things off today, we'll be talking about the death of a goalkeeper in MLS, a member of the Philadelphia Union organization named Holden Trent. Dead at the age of 25, rather mysteriously. Also in the world of sports, 49ers cornerback Charvarius Ward was in the news yesterday as he reportedly lost his daughter at the age of just 1 after suffering from a myriad of health complications. The World Series is well underway, and we'll talk about Freddie Freeman, who is on an absolute tear, hitting a home run in every game so far, all 4 of them. But we'll focus on his Game 1 Grand Slam, a walk-off homer, which was essentially a numerical riddle to the 1988 Game 1 home run for Kirk Gibson. Also, those of you who watched my last video on Fernando Valenzuela, you may have picked up on the riddle I gave that gave my pick for the winner of the Mexico City Grand Prix. And I was so confident last week, I gave my pick in the form of a riddle. And those of you who figured that riddle out, we're 8-1 winners for the Mexico City Grand Prix. And this coming week, the race will be in Brazil. And we'll talk a little bit about it. I will do a similar thing to what I did last week. I'll give my pick out. And if you can figure that out, then you may be in line for a win. Of course, nothing's guaranteed in the world of sports betting, but my record's been pretty good. We'll look at that. And then finally, at the end of this video, we'll look at a little bit of history by the numbers and the 2021 death of Tetris world champion Jonas Neubauer. And interesting, I'll be talking about Tetris today, as Tetris has ordinal gematria of 91, like the number in the Superstream. Gematria, of course, the ancient number lettering system, which gives us a numeric value for every word, name, or phrase. The 6 key ciphers that we'll be using throughout this video are on your screen here. It all starts with the alphabetic order, which can then either be reversed or reduced. Those methods feed into the larger extended ciphers of Gematria. So let's kick things off and look at this story about Holden Trent, a goaltender for the Philadelphia Union, who was passed away suddenly at the age of 25. Now, for the younger viewers out there, this type of news story was almost never seen several years ago, where we have the death of a young athlete in the prime of their life with no cause of death given. But this has been the trend over recent years, and I'll let you decide what's responsible for that. But what I want to cover in this decode is how the passing of Holden Trent is a numeric riddle connected to the death of basketball player Kobe Bryant, who was born in the city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Sorry, I'll fix myself up here as we go. Earlier this year, Kobe lost his father, Joe Bryant, also known as Jelly Bean Bryant, where Kobe gets his middle name, Bean. Now, on my channel, I just made a playlist the other day full of videos for news stories and celebrity deaths that are numerically connected to Kobe Bryant. There's 12 videos here. I can probably find more. But we'll definitely be adding this decode to that list as well. And we start with the language of Gematria and the name of this goaltender, Holden Trent, which sums to 135 in the standard alphabetic order and 54 in the reduction cipher, also known as Pythagorean Gematria? Well, these numbers stood out immediately because the name Kobe Bean Bryant has these same digits. Kobe Bean Bryant, 135 ordinal and 54 in reduction. That's not the end of the connections here, however. If you exclude his middle name and just type out Kobe Bryant, notice how you get values of 157 and 58 in reverse. The name Holden equals 157 and 58, while the name Trent also equals 58. And think about how a Philadelphia player has died at the age of 25. In the ancient Latin method of Gematria, also called Agrippa's key, which I consider to be the most significant method, especially in the large number ciphers, Philadelphia summing to 205, and in numerology this represents 25, as zeros are customarily ignored. And to show that zeros are typically ignored, check out Philadelphia in reverse, which equals 223, a number connected to skull and bones, as we'll look at later. Well, when Kobe died back in 2020, look at how old Holden was. 20 years, 203 days, 223, just like Philadelphia. And also consider how similar their dates of death are. Kobe dead on January 26th or 1/26, while Holden Trent was born on October 26th. Died on October 26th. Both of these dates in numerology, 1, 2, 6. During his playing career, Kobe Bryant wore two different numbers. Those were the numbers 24 and 8. In the reverse cipher, human sacrifice equals 248. And think about how the 24th of August, or 24/8, is now Kobe Bryant Day in Los Angeles. If you take the alphabetic order and flip the digits backwards, rather than the order of the digits, notice how Kobe Bryant gives a sum of 248. This ordinal mirror cipher is not that important, but it does yield some interesting results from time to time. So for instance, R, the 18th letter, is switched up to become 81. It's a simple concept, and here we find that Kobe Bryant equals 248. Well, measuring from the death of Kobe Bryant to the death of Philadelphia soccer player Holden Trent was a span of exactly 248 weeks. Now, earlier this year, Kobe's father, Joe Bryant, passed away back on July 15th. And I did a post and a video on the numerology of that story. Well, look at how old Joe Bryant would have been if he were still alive for Holden's death. 70 years and 7 days. This immediately stands out because Holden Trent was reportedly born on July 7th, the date written 7/7. When you write out 77 in Gematria, notice how you get a sum of 49 in reduction, which is 7 times 7. Joe's nickname Jellybean sums to 49. And when Holden Trent died, it was exactly 4 years and 9 months after Kobe Bryant. And in the standard alphabetic order, the word goalie equals 49. Also notice, however, how goalie equals 113. This is the ordinal gematria of the name Kobe Bryant. In fact, Holden Trent was born on a date with primary numerology of 113, 7 plus 7 plus 99. And not only does Kobe Bryant's name equal 113. But also check out his father, Joseph Washington Bryant, who also has a 113. Now, if you take these digits, 11 times 3, you get a product of 33. And in the alphabetic order, the name Kobe equals 33. Remember back when he played high school basketball in the city of Philadelphia, Kobe wore number 33 for Lower Merion High School. These two men were born exactly 1,089 weeks apart. And 1,089 is the 33rd square number. 33 times 33. 1,089, the exact number of weeks between these two men's births. Now, in addition to the typical date durations that we look at, days, months, weeks, years, things of the sort, we also look at lunar counts here on this channel. These are incredibly important, especially when it comes to lunar phases or synodic months, which measures the time between each lunar phase. Holden Trent died exactly 313 lunar phases after he was born. Now, 313 is the 65th prime number, and he died 65 days after Kobe's birthday. Notice how the city of Philadelphia equals 65 in reduction. If you use capital letters, a cipher I call capitals mixed, where the capitals and small letters are mixed together, the name Kobe also equals 65. And notice how Holden was even born 6 weeks and 5 days before Kobe's birthday. One more interesting note, the number of days between their birthdays has a 623 in it. And in Latin Gematria, the name Bryant equals 623. With capital letters, the names Holden and Trent both have a 13 in them. Holden dead 103 days after Kobe's dad, whose full name, Joseph Washington Bryant, equals 103. Earlier this year, a brand new Kobe Bryant statue was unveiled outside of Crypto.com Arena, the home of the Los Angeles Lakers. The soccer star died 261 days later. And notice how soccer equals 261. Holden even born 261 days after Joe Bryant's birthday. So this story here, another perfect example of how important the deaths of major celebrities are, even from several years ago, still attributed to this very day. And again, if you want to see more, check out my Kobe Bryant playlist, which I will link in the description. Or you can just go to the playlists section of my YouTube channel. Next up, we had breaking news yesterday from the National Football League, where we learned that San Francisco 49ers defensive player Charvarius Ward, who played earlier this February in the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs, who, curiously enough, was a team that he spent 3 years with earlier in his career. So his 1-year-old daughter allegedly passes away, and I don't believe the date of the death was listed. And truthfully, I don't think it's that important, because it's all about the date that this article came out, which was yesterday, October 29th. This will be the date that we use for this here particular decode. And once again, we have another story that's synced up to the Skull and Bone Society at New Haven's Yale University, a fraternal brotherhood which has been around since 1832. And as we will see, rather bizarrely in this story, this news story is connected to a 1993 song called Daughter by a famous band known as Pearl Jam. A song that I'm not particularly too fond of, but I don't want to hate on Pearl Jam too much. There's a few songs of theirs I kind of like. But what we need to understand is how this is all connected to the college that Charvarius Ward played football for, Middle Tennessee State University, which has a very curious founding date. Look at this. Middle Tennessee State University was established on the date 9/11 of 1911. You guys think there's going to be a World Trade Center riddle here? Well, you better believe it. Now, the Middle Tennessee State University football team is called the Blue Raiders. And this is very important because in the NFL, the Raiders are one of the two skull and bones teams of the league. Their emblem, very reminiscent of this Yale fraternity's emblem. The other team, of course, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who we'll talk about later in this video when we look at Tetris, Jonas Neubauer, and Tom Brady. Now remember, the Oakland Raiders at the time won their first Super Bowl on the 9th day of the year in Super Bowl 11. And that game was played 9,011 days before the 9/11 attacks. So here we have another riddle with Raiders and 9/11 through Middle Tennessee State. Yesterday, the date of the news, Middle Tennessee State University turned 41,322 days old. First, we look at the number 41, which is the reduction value of skull and bones. And then we see the 322, which is the number on the skull and bones emblem. But perhaps even more interesting is that when you write out Middle Tennessee State, it sums to 322 in the reverse alphabetic order. Furthermore, in Standard English Gematria, which is the modern-day Hebrew or Greek method, also known as a denary method, notice how Middle Tennessee State equals 1118. Well, the date 1118, or November 18th, is the 322nd day of the year. Now, a couple weeks ago, Middle Tennessee State won their 149th game in school history. 149 is the ordinal value of skull and bones. Middle Tennessee still has 149 wins. In reduction gematria, Yale sums to 16, while the numbers 223 and 322 both equal 106. Notice how in Latin, 1-year-old daughter equals 1,060. Why is this so important, the number 16? Well, look at the state of Tennessee. Tennessee is the 16th state admitted to the Union. And it was admitted on the 1st of June, or the date 1/6. And when you write out Tennessee in the alphabetic order, it equals 106, like the number 16. Well, the 16th card of the tarot deck is the Tower. And this, of course, connects us to September 11th and the destruction of the Twin Towers. Remember that Yale University was founded on the date October 9th, or 1009, as we see here on Wiki. When you write out the Roman numerals for 16, It sums to 1009 in both Latin and Standard. So check this out. Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders has Gematria of 1248 and 114. Blue Raiders on its own, also 114. These are the same numbers you see in the Tower. The Tower, 1248 and 114. If you include the Roman numerals, you also get 1014. And now we get a story about Charvarius Ward's 1-year-old daughter. And 1-year-old equals 114. The daughter's name was Amani Joy Ward, which equals 1140. And according to the story, she was born with Down syndrome, which equals 1014. And remember, this school founded on 9/11 of 1911. So there's no debating the significance of these numerical connections. You'll also note that the baby's name sums to 554, just like Down syndrome and the Tower 16. So if you measure from the birthday of Charvarius Ward, which is May 16th, to the date that this news was published, you find it was 166 days. In the alphabetic order, Charvarius Ward equals 166. So does Blue Raiders with capital letters. The Tower equals 166. Twin Towers, 166 ordinal. And this is all about a special secret society, which also sums to 166 in ordinal. Now, last year, in 2023, Yale University had a very special anniversary when they turned 322 years old. Skull and crossbones summing to 223, like the digits in last year. Well, on that date, the head coach of the 49ers, who Charvarius Ward now plays for in the NFL, Kyle Shanahan, notice how he was 16,006 days old for that date. When Pearl Jam released their hit single, Daughter, Kyle Shanahan was 166 months old. In fact, he was also 5,072 days old, and Skull and Bones equals 572. Kyle Shanahan also equals 47, and we'll look again at the 119, which is part of the 9/11 code. But the reason I point this out is that yesterday, October 29th, was a span of 47 days before Kyle Shanahan's birthday. And also in reduction, total eclipse sums to 47. So just like the 9/11 attacks themselves, this story is a riddle to the code of solar eclipses. Just look at the name of Charvarius' daughter, Amani Joy Ward, which has Gematria of 134, 190, 53, and 73. I point out all four numbers because these are the same four numbers in the phrase solar eclipse. These two eclipses over the United States over the past 7 years created an X over the US, or a cross, much like the bones crossed under the skull. Using the ampersand, skull and crossbones equals 204. Yesterday's news was 204 days after the second Great American Eclipse. However, if you include the end date in this same measurement, you instead get 205 days. 205 is the ordinal gematria of Yale University, the reverse gematria of Kyle Shanahan, and the capital value of Middle Tennessee, the school he attended. Notice how the word eclipse equals 33 in reduction gematria. And an eclipse occurs when the moon blocks the sun. Would you believe that Charvarius Ward's middle name is Mooney? I mean, what are the odds of this? Mooney? Notice how the name Mooney equals 33. And this brings us to the song Daughter by Pearl Jam, which is completely connected to this. If you measure from the founding of Middle Tennessee State, which was that double 9/11 date, to the date that Pearl Jam's Daughter was released, look at this, 30,003 days. How interesting is that? Especially considering that the song Daughter reached number 33 on the Billboard charts in the United States. Outside the US, it peaked at number 16 in Canada. And I do believe I just spent a whole chunk of this decode talking about the number 16 and the Tower card. But of course, there's more. Yesterday's news on October 29th was the 303rd day of a leap year. The 33rd pentagonal number is 1617. Pentagonal numbers are five-cornered shapes that expand, and this is a horrible explanation of a pentagonal number. Maybe a Google search will be better for you than listening to me. But I point this out because measuring from the release of Daughter to the date of yesterday's news story was exactly 1,617 weeks. The 33rd pentagonal. Charvarius Ward was born on the 137th day of the year. That's the 33rd prime number. So there's a lot of 33 there, but remember the World Trade Center in New York City. New York equals 33. The towers were destroyed 33 years after construction began, and Twin Towers equals 330. In Satanic Gematria, rather appropriately, a cipher constructed around the number 666, the phrase ritual human sacrifice equals 9/11. And remember that Charvarius Ward played in Super Bowl 58 against his old team in the Super Bowl with gematria of 9/11. His coach Kyle Shanahan sums to 119. Charvarius Mooney Ward sums to 116, which is an upside-down 9/11. Yesterday's news 1 month and 16 days before Shanahan's birthday. All synced up with Middle Tennessee State's 9/11-1911 founding date. Notice how Charvarius was born 119 days before September 11th. But check out this gematria. Middle Tennessee, in our mathematical ciphers, sums to 1109, while Middle Tennessee State equals 1016. These mathematical methods using basic numerical relations based on the alphabetic order. Now, if you measure from the founding of Middle Tennessee State to the release of Pearl Jam's Daughter, you get exactly 1,016 lunar phases. An upside-down 9/11. Charvarius Ward was born 1,016 months after the school was founded. However, there's another huge connection with this. From this special double 9/11 date, Middle Tennessee State University, to the birth of Charvarius Ward is exactly 1,132 sidereal months, or lunar orbits. This is the other measurement of the moon. We talked about lunar phases earlier, but lunar orbits, or sidereal months, are also very significant. And I want you to notice this 1132. This is really wild. Charvarius born 1,132 sidereal months after the school he attended was founded. When he played in the Super Bowl, he was 10,132 days old. Another 1132. Well, not only was Charvarius 132 weeks old when Pearl Jam's Daughter was released, but yesterday's news was published 11,320 days after that song. And when you write out daughter, you get double gematria of 132 in reverse and square numbers. United States of America, 132. The United States of America, also 261, matching daughter with prime numbers. And yesterday's news was 261 days after the Super Bowl. 261 is also the Sumerian value of Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders. Again, the school he played for. Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders also has the 156. And now he's lost his 1-year-old in connection with the eclipse code. 156, a huge eclipse number in both Hebrew and English. And remember, the 156th prime number is 911. Not only that, but 156 is also the 119th composite number, which is essentially the opposite of a prime number. 911 and 119. The 119th prime number is 653, and yesterday's news was 653 days before the next total solar eclipse. And there's more eclipse connections. Once again, all my posts are linked down below in the description. But no question about it, this news story connected. And, you know, I hope for everyone's sake that this was just organic. You know, this baby was born like a few months premature with a lot of health complications, so it's very possible that that's the case. It's a dark world out there. You never really know. But regardless, the numbers line up incredibly well. Next up, we're going to look at the World Series, particularly Game 1, which ended in the most dramatic fashion possible, as Freddie Freeman walked it off with the first ever walk-off grand slam in the history of the World Series. This is, of course, the 2024 World Series. The name Freddie Freeman with capital letters sums to 224. So maybe that has a little bit to do with why he's caught absolute fire in the first 4 games of the series. When Freeman hit his blast, it was on a date with primary numerology of 79. Now remember the last video on my channel talked about the death of former Dodgers pitcher Fernando Valenzuela, whose death was a riddle connected to Formula One's Fernando Alonso, who had his 400th Grand Prix this weekend. And of course, this story pointed us to Carlos Sainz winning the race. I'll explain why in a little bit. But notice how the name Fernando Valenzuela sums to 79. And it was Fernando's number 34 that was painted on the pitching mound there in Los Angeles. In fact, Fernando was honored in a nice little ceremony before the game. But what we really need to talk about is how this was a riddle connected to the 1988 World Series, when Kirk Gibson, whom, just like Freddie Freeman, was nursing a serious ankle injury at the time, entered the game and hit a walk-off home run in Game 1. Now, 1988 is the last time that the Los Angeles Dodgers won the World Series in a full 162-game season. 1988 was a special year for California. California, a state with 88 Gematria. And isn't it interesting that when Kirk Gibson hit his home run, it was at 8:37 p.m.? Well, when Freddie Freeman hit his home run, it was also at 8:37 p.m. Now, on the broadcast for Game 2, they actually changed the time of Gibson's home run to 8:39. So I don't know exactly how accurate this is, but pretty staggering nonetheless. And these two home runs were even separated by 36 years. In the reduction method, Dodgers equals 36 forwards and backwards. Now, Fernando Valenzuela was on the 1988 Dodgers team that won the World Series. So he was there on the field when Kirk Gibson hit his home run. And look how old Fernando Valenzuela was. 10,210 days. Well, the man who gave up Freddie Freeman's home run is Nestor Cortez, who was born on the date 12/10, December 10th. And when you write out World Series walk-off grand slam, it equals 121. Worth mentioning that blood sacrifice equals 121, a number we commonly see with stories about death, like with Fernando. But what about this? You know, we talked about the number 88, California, 88. The first World Series to be played in Dodger Stadium since 88. Well, 88 is the number of time travel in the movie Back to the Future. And if you check out my buddy Cody's channel, Decoding with Cody, he's been on a massive Back to the Future kick lately with the presidential election and everything that's been going on. And this has been confirmed over and over again. And it's very fascinating. And it's all connected to the 2016 World Series. Remember in the film Back to the Future, the Cubs win the 2015 World Series. Well, in real life, the Cubs won in 2016. And the man who made the last out was Anthony Rizzo. Well, this year, Anthony Rizzo plays for the New York Yankees. And as magical as the 2016 World Series was, now that New York has won Game 4, I really do think that New York is going to come back and take it to Game 7. Because there's something brewing with, you know, Trump potentially being elected again, just like he was in 2016. This is all very strong, but here's more confirmation of this riddle. Measuring from the birthdays of Freddie Freeman to the pitcher who threw the ball that he hit the grand slam from, these two men were born 5 years and 89 days apart. Well, that's the Latin gematria of Donald Trump. And just as this game was going underway, Donald Trump was featured on the Joe Rogan Experience. This episode was uploaded just as the game was starting. And look at the episode number. 2219. This is very important. 2219. Because in the movie Back to the Future, the dates that they time travel to are separated by 21,900 days. Freddie Freeman was born exactly 219 weeks after Back to the Future was released in 1985. In Latin gematria, the state of California sums to 219. In Back to the Future, they time travel in a DeLorean, which equals 219. And look at the last name Cortez. 219. These are the same three digits in Freddie Freeman's birthday. 912. His birthday also had numerology of 129. Well, look how old Nestor Cortez was when he gave the home run up. 10,912 days. 912 like 219. 912 like Freeman's birthday. When Fernando Valenzuela died, it was 219 days before Kirk Gibson's birthday. Now, that's interesting, but notice how Freddie Freeman was born 259 days before Kirk Gibson's birthday. 259 is the ordinal gematria of Fernando Valenzuela's full name. And in the reverse alphabetic order, Kirk Harold Gibson equals 259, which matches California in standard 259. And this World Series is being played under Brown lunation 1259. World Series walk-off Grand Slam has gematria of 2599. Yale University 2059. And this brings us to Skull and Bones, because you know this is going to be connected. Skull and Bones was founded in the year 1832. And look how old Freddie Freeman was when Fernando Valenzuela died. Exactly 1,832 weeks old. When Freddie Freeman was born, Kirk Gibson was 32 years and 108 days old, which is almost the reverse of these numbers. Freeman hit his Grand Slam 322 days before his birthday. When Kirk Gibson had his walk-off home run, he was 32 weeks and 2 days before his birthday. And Kirk Gibson is 3 years, 22 weeks, and 3 days older than Fernando Valenzuela. Relief pitcher Nestor Cortez also has numbers connecting to Yale. Nestor Cortez equals 171 in ordinal, like how Yale was founded in the year 1701. And notice how his name also equals 223 with capital letters. Well, the 171st prime number is 1019, like 119. Freeman's Grand Slam was 10 months and 19 days after his birthday, matching the gematria of New Haven, 1019. Yale was founded on the date 10-9. Kirk Gibson has 109 birth numerology, matching the ordinal sum of Los Angeles. And Nestor Cortez, born 1 month 9 days after Fernando Valenzuela's birthday, which fell on a date with numerology of 19. Freeman's Grand Slam, when you measure back to the founding of Yale, notice how you get 11799. Well, Nestor Cortez Jr., the name of the pitcher, sums to 179. And Kirk Gibson was exactly 179 weeks older than Fernando Valenzuela. That's the 41st prime number, like Skull and Bones, 41. The Brotherhood of Death is also synced up with Number of the Beast. California, Beast, Freeman, all with 88 gematria, like Gibson's homer in the year 88. Well, when Freeman hit his home run, Kirk Gibson was 808 months old. And their home runs were separated by 1,880 weeks exactly. The name Gibson also has matching gematria with Beast and California, 198. Well, Fernando Valenzuela debuted in 1980. Now, we all know that the number of the Beast is 666. Well, check out the name Frederick Charles Freeman. It sums to 666 in standard gematria. This number equals 275 in the alphabetic order. Fernando Valenzuela was 27 years and 50 weeks old exactly when Kirk Gibson hit his walk-off home run. Finally, the number 33 is shorthand for 666. When you write out 33, it sums to 66 and 60, and it has the same value as 666, that being 156. Well, Freddie Freeman was born exactly 1,506 weeks after Fernando Valenzuela. The name Gibson sums to 33, and Freddie Freeman was born 333 days after Kirk's walk-off home run, and also 33 days before its first anniversary. So, what an event it was in the World Series. What a scene over at Dodger Stadium. And a script that only Hollywood could produce. And maybe it's appropriate that you can virtually see the Hollywood sign from Dodger Stadium, right? Next up, on Sunday, Formula One went racing at Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez for the Mexico City Grand Prix. And the winner of the Grand Prix was a driver named Carlos Sainz Jr. Now, if you watched my last video on Fernando Valenzuela, I gave you my pick in the form of a riddle, and that riddle was that Carlos Sainz Jr. turned 300 months old on the same date that Charles Leclerc, the godson of Jules Bianchi, won his first ever Grand Prix. And as we see here, Carlos Sainz, born September 1st, was exactly 300 months old for the 2029 Italian Grand Prix, which was the first win for Charles Leclerc. So, how did I know that Carlos Sainz would win? Now, of course, I did not know for sure. However, what I did is I used the numbers that I discussed in my story on Fernando Valenzuela, and I took all of the drivers on the grid, and I measured their age on the date Fernando died and their age for the race, also measuring from their age to Valenzuela's birthday. And I looked at all the numbers, I jammed everything together, and I decided that Carlos Sainz had the strongest alignments to that news story. And like I said, if you figured my riddle out, you would have won an 8-1 for Carlos to win. And just to reiterate, again, this is still not a betting channel, and I never even set out to bet on Formula One when I started decoding it, but it quickly became apparent to me that it was possible. And in the 8 races I've bet on, I'm ahead 33 betting units. This is a field of 20 drivers, and I've picked the right winner in half of them. It's outrageous what I've been doing. I've been destroying Formula One this year. And again, there's no proof that this will continue. I could very well lose the next 4, and I'd still be ahead. That's fine, but So anyone looking to wager, just remember, sports betting is ultimately a trap. However, on occasion, sometimes you can beat it. So, why did I pick Carlos Sainz? Well, we start with the number 34, which is the number that Fernando Valenzuela wore, and the number that's painted on the pitching mound for the World Series. Well, Carlos Sainz, in this race, increased his win total from 3 to 4. And in the alphabetic order, his full name sums to 340. Carlos Sainz was born 304 days into Fernando Valenzuela's 34th year. Do you understand how strong that connection is? Now, what about the reduction cipher? His full name equals 115. Well, on the date of the Grand Prix, he was 11,015 days old. Now, the number 115 is another number I talked about in my decode on Fernando Valenzuela. If I can find it in this first post, it may have been in the second one. Come on, 115, where are you? Did I skip it? Sorry, guys, live streams can suck sometimes. Here it is. Okay, I skipped right by it. So Fernando Mania equals 115. And the race in Mexico City was a celebration of Fernando Alonso and his 400th race. So I mentioned the number 115 a lot. So not only was Carlos Sainz 11,015 days old, but if you watched qualifying, he was the only driver to qualify with a 1:15. Look at this. See this? 1 minute 15 seconds, the only one. Everyone else was 1:16. So another number I talked about was 119. I'm not even going to look for it. Oh, here it is. It was the first number I mentioned in the post. Well, look how old Carlos Sainz was when Fernando Valenzuela died. 11,009 days old. And the race was exactly 119 lunar phases after Carlos Sainz's F1 debut. And remember, the 119th prime number is 653, which is his team's name, Scuderia Ferrari 653. And think about Ferrari, Fernando. Fernando comes from the name Ferd, which leads us to Freddie Freeman. In regards to the Scuderia, this was Ferrari's 247th win. World Trade Center equals 247, which is obviously connected to the number 119. I also talked about how this is all a riddle connected to Spanish-speaking drivers, as there's 3 of them in the field. And you find the digits in Spanish when measuring from Valenzuela's to Sainz's birthday. And in this post, I also talked about the number 137. Well, look at the name Carlos Sainz 137. There's also a huge skull and bones riddle. This was Carlos's 202nd Grand Prix, like skull and bones. He had a big 74 connection to this race as well. So, I'm not simply just giving you my picks. I'm giving you my methodology. Because, you know, I could go out here and it would be very easy to simply bash everyone who uses numerology to pick sports. And a lot of them are not doing the best job. And I'm trying to show you guys, it is possible, but you have to be smart about it. And this is exactly how I came to that conclusion. And, I shared it with you guys, and congratulations to those who listened. But, I was so confident last week that I didn't want to just give you my pick. I had to make you work for it a little bit because, look, if I start giving you my picks every week for free and just throwing them out there, then eventually my picks will be wrong. Because if these sports truly are rigged, then they're not going to let everyone become wealthy off of it. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I don't know the best way to tread through this. I mean, I myself am shocked at how well I'm doing this year. And maybe I'm just getting lucky. Maybe it all ends this week. I don't know. But it's really wild stuff. And, yeah, I don't have much more to say on it. So check out the links in the blog, in the description below if you want to learn more. So big thanks to everybody who chimed in on the live stream. And if you're watching archived and made it an hour in, thanks for viewing. Of course, if you made it this far, I would definitely appreciate if you subscribe to the channel, as YouTube does very little on its own to share my work with the world. And with what I'm showing today especially, it's easy to see why. We as human beings in America, and really in all parts of the developed world, are treated like morons. We are expected to know nothing about the truth of this world and the magnificence of the geometric connections that bring all of us together, that prove that we as different beings are not separate entities. This race is far more connected than we will ever truly understand. And some would go so far as to even say that I am you and vice versa. That might be a little bit new agey for some. But it's a concept that's not based in fiction. Now, for the next part of this video, and the final decode here today, I'm going to be talking about the 2021 death of a famous video game player named Jonas Neubauer. Now, last month, I did a video called Superstream 87, actually earlier this month. And this Superstream focuses on a video game player named Jeff Robinson, who was a former champion in the game StarCraft, which some of you probably never heard of, but was for the longest time the biggest esport in all of gaming. And this time, I'm going to look at a different game that many of you know, called Tetris. And out of all competitive video games, Tetris has had one of the most interesting story arcs of all of them. Now, Tetris is a game that I've spent many hours playing throughout my childhood and even young adulthood. It's a really challenging game, it's a relaxing game, and it's one that it's fun to increase your score, right? And many years after the fact, I found out that my scores were almost good enough to compete in some of these competitions, but I'm nowhere near the level of the best players. And for me personally, this story is of special interest to me because although I didn't compete in Tetris, I did go to video game tournaments of all kinds when I was a kid. And again, a young adult. Into my 20s, I traveled all over the country to play competitive Tekken tournaments. I won Dance Dance Revolution tournaments in 4 different states, which is a strange fact about me that most people don't know. So when it comes to competitive gaming, I'm kind of always got my nose in the scene and just seeing what's going on. And in 2021, I was very surprised to see that Jonas Neubauer, who was a beloved 7-time champion in the community, suddenly died very shortly after moving to Hawaii. Jonas Neubauer was one of the main characters in a 2011 documentary called Ecstasy of Order, The Tetris Masters. And when Jonas passed away, it was just 33 days before Tom Brady won his 7th and final Super Bowl. And Jonas was a 7-time World Tetris champion. Now, what I was going to say earlier is that since Jonas lost his title, Tetris has evolved to levels that no one thought was possible. So the high scores from even 3 or 4 years ago are complete jokes. There's like a brand new technique that people figured out how to play at the highest levels, and people are so good they're literally crashing the game now. It's really weird. But anyway, what I want to focus on is how competitive Tetris is a 9/11 riddle. And this may sound silly on the surface, but think about it. You have two players building separate towers with the intent of destroying those towers and bringing them down into their own footprint. Does that sound familiar? In the 1960s, construction began on the World Trade Center. And yes, the intent was to bring those buildings down into their own footprint. So this might sound bizarre, but I assure you, there is a huge riddle with this. Now remember Tom Brady. He became the starting quarterback for New England in the first game after the 9/11 attacks. And then Tom Brady, after winning 6 Super Bowls with the Patriots right after the Patriot Act was signed, he went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and won one more 33 days after Jonas died. So in 2011, this film about Tetris was released. And check this out. This is incredible. This film came out 185 days after Jonas Neubauer's birthday. World Trade Center equals 185. When Tom Brady won his first Super Bowl, Jonas was exactly 1,085 weeks old. And in that same game, Tom Brady was 185 days after his birthday. Earlier that season, he replaced Drew Bledsoe at quarterback, and Drew Bledsoe equals 185. Both men ended up winning a 7th championship, which equals 185. The man who invented Tetris is a Russian programmer named Alexei Pajitnov. When Jonas died, Pajitnov was 24,007 days old. 247 is the reverse value of World Trade Center. Now, back in 2001, Jonas reportedly achieved the first ever max out, which is where you score 999,999 points. There's only 6 digits in the NES score counter, so this was a max out. Nobody had ever done this before. And Jonas reportedly did this on March 23rd of 2001, the same year as the 9/11 attacks. Well, look how old Jonas was when he did that. 19 years and 11 months old. Neubauer died 19 years, 116 days after the 9/11 attacks, and 6,911 days after Tom Brady's first Super Bowl. He also died exactly 9 years, 11 weeks after the release of Ecstasy of Order. Super Bowl 55, Brady's final championship, was 9 years, 110 days after that same date. Brady's longtime coach Bill Belichick sums to 9/11 in square numbers. That's the 156th prime number. And Neubauer died 156 days after Brady's birthday, just before he won the Super Bowl with Tampa Bay, which equals 156. Now let's look at Jonas Neubauer's date of birth. He was born on April 19th. Well, April 19th is an important date to towers in history because that's the day the Oklahoma City bombing occurred. This date is written on the calendar as 19/4, With capital letters, the name Tom Brady equals 194. And Tom Brady won his 7th Super Bowl 19 years and 4 days after his first. In the alphabetic order, September 11th, 2001, and 119 all equal 194. Jonas Neubauer turned 14 years old on the date of the Oklahoma City bombing. He was born with date numerology of 104. And when he passed away, which was reportedly January 5th, it was 104 days before his birthday. The name Jonas equals 14 and 221. Now, most outlets actually report that he died on January 4th. And this is important. There's a riddle with both dates because January 4th is the 4th day of the year. And Tetris is a game full of the number 4. We'll talk about that more in a second. But the name Jonas, 14 and 221, just like the date he potentially died. And I think the story is that he collapsed on the 4th and then maybe died the next morning. But anyway, Tom Brady won the Super Bowl the following month on a date with 14 numerology. And it was on the date 2-7. Well, 2 times 7 is 14. The film Ecstasy of Order came out 10 years, 40 days after the 9/11 attacks. And those attacks happened on another date with 14 numerology. So what brings this all together? And let me show you how it's all about the number 4. Tetris, a game of 4-piece blocks called tetraminos, where the object is to clear 4 lines at a time. Well, both Tom Brady and Jonas Neubauer had 7 championships. And 7 is the 4th prime number. And in the reverse alphabetic order, 4th and prime both sum to 74. So did Jonas really die on the 4th day of the year? Well, if he did not, and it was the 5th day, well, news of his death broke 4 days after this day. The guy who invented Tetris was born in the 4th month. On top of that, he was also born on the 16th. And 16 is 4 times 4. Well, April 16th happens to be the same birthday as Bill Belichick, whom Brady won 6 of his Super Bowls with. The inventor of Tetris has birth numerology of 40. And he was born on the 1st day of Bill Belichick's 4th year. Jonas died shortly before his 40th birthday. Notice how he died, the Super Bowl was 71 days before his 40th birthday. Tetris, Jonas, Evan Neubauer, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers all equal 71. And when the Tetris movie came out, it was on the date leaving 71 days in the year. Ecstasy of Order was screened 40 days after the anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, matching the Gematria of Christ. Well, this number is significant for another reason, because it connects to 173. The motto of the Jesuit order sums to 173. And 173 is Eli upside down. Eli, the name of God that Jesus shouts for on the cross. The film Ecstasy of Order has Gematria of 173, matching Yale University in reverse. The names Neubauer and Russia, both 173, Tetris invented by the country of Russia. Neubauer was born 173 days before Yale's anniversary, and when he completed his max out in 2001, it was 173 days before the 9/11 attacks, which contained 4 plane crashes, and plane crash equals 173. Jesus Christ has matching 146 Gematria with both Jonas Neubauer and Thomas Edward Patrick Brady. Jonas died 14 weeks and 6 days before his birthday, which is interesting because the 9/11 attacks were 146 days after his birthday and 146 days before Brady won his first Super Bowl. Jonas Neubauer had birth numerology of 33, matching his last name in reduction. He died 33 days before Brady won his 7th title. And it was just days after he moved to Hawaii, which equals 33. Brady winning his 7th championship, which equals 33. Brady's 7th title was exactly 33 lunar phases before Yale University turned 322 years old. Remember how 33 has matching gematria with ritual human sacrifice through the number 895? Well, this is huge, because when Tom Brady won his first Super Bowl, he was 8,950 days old. And when he won his last Super Bowl, he was 15,895 days old. And in that last Super Bowl, he defeated Patrick Mahomes, who was the new Tom Brady of the league. And when Mahomes won the Super Bowl the previous year, he was 8,905 days old. Patrick LeVon Mahomes III, or second, I think, sums to 333. And Mahomes won his first Super Bowl on the 33rd day of the year. That was exactly 1 week or 7 days after Kobe died. And Kobe equals 33. 1 week and 7 days both equal 33. And in the 33rd verse of the Bible, God rests on the 7th day. So there's also a huge connection between Neubauer and Belichick. When Bill Belichick won his 6th and final Super Bowl, it was 293 days after his birthday. And that would have been his first Super Bowl as well, in 2002. Well, Jonas was born 29 years and 3 days after Bill Belichick. And that's the 62nd prime number. Belichick equals 62. Jonas Evan Neubauer equals 62. Alexei Pajitnov, the inventor of Tetris, 62. The movie about Tetris came out on a date with numerology of 62. And Brady finished his career with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which has double gematria of 62, like the word sacrifice. And when Yale had its special anniversary, it was on a date with 62 numerology. And how about this? When Jonas Neubauer died, Patrick Mahomes was the exact same age as Bill Belichick was when Tom Brady was born. 25 years, 109 days. Recall this 109 from earlier, a number connected to Yale, founded on 10/9. Well, if Jonas died on the 4th day of the year, it was 1,009 days before Yale's 322nd anniversary on the date 10/09. And if he died on the 5th, it was the start of the 1,009th week since the 9/11 attacks. The Tetris movie, by the way, The date of its release, 109 days before the date of Brady's final Super Bowl. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Paganoff, Satan God, all with 109. And when you measure from Belichick's last Super Bowl to Neubauer's death, you get all World Trade Center numbers. It's just wild. But here's what I'll leave you with. Brady's last Super Bowl was Super Bowl 55, which matches the name Belichick equals 55. And the creator of Tetris was born in the year 55. Notice how Satan equals 55, and during the Super Bowl in 55, there was a big Satan ritual for the halftime show. Well, Satan also equals 19, and Brady's 7 titles were 19 years apart. Jonas was 19 years old for his first max out. He was born on the 19th of the month, and then news of his death broke on the date 1-9. The number 19 has matching 244 gematria with the word satanic. And the satanic number of 666 first appears 2,440 digits into pi. When Belichick won his first title, his 6th at the age of 66, he was 24,400 days old. Brady was 24 years, 40 days old on 9/11, and Jonas was 244 months. Alexei Pajitnov, 24,040 days old for the Super Bowl. One sec, guys. Hang on, I'll be right back. Got to take a quick call. Hang on. All right, everyone. Apologies for that. But I'm back, and let's just finish up this decode quick. So this 244, which is connected to 666 and the satanic code. Alexei Pajitnov was 24,040 days old for Tom Brady's last Super Bowl. That Super Bowl was 2 years, 244 days before Yale's anniversary, or 32 months and 2 days, and that's when Yale turned 322. If you measure from the opening date of the new World Trade Center, November 3rd of 2014, we find that Jonas may have died exactly 322 weeks later. Jonas was 752 weeks older than Patrick Mahomes, which is a skull and bones number. There's more to this. Again, all my posts that are covered in this video are linked down in the description below. So do check those out if you're able to. If you share anywhere near the level of interest I do in numerology, I know you will. But with all that being said, that'll do it for today's video. So thanks to everybody for watching. Again, links down in the description if you want to find out more. If you'd like to support the work, which in addition to keeping these videos coming, Also gives you additional benefits for the website. It'll save your settings, save your history, and a number of other cool, powerful tools. Also, on sale now at the website, Gematrinator hoodies. So check that out if you're able to. Be sure to order one in your size just in time for winter. All right, everyone. Peace, love, God bless. Talk to y'all next time. See ya.